Alright, today's the day where we put some wood on the truck. So let's see if the truck's ready for this project. So this is a mock-up of how the back's going to look somewhat like this. Just kind of a concept. And I'm doing that to stop it from moving this forward and backwards. And I'll do the little cables to do the other way. So, yeah, so here's what it looks like from the front. So, from the front, you can't even see it. You don't even know it's there. It's like there's no wood on this truck. Not at all, can't see it. And then you come around the side, of course, the PVC is gonna have trim on it. I'll have that old wood in there, so you won't see the white PVC. And I'm talking about in here. I got old wood to put in there. But from right over here, looks pretty cool. Like right there, just like right that. You know, once I finish out the back, it's gonna look a little bit different, but it's gonna look better. And again, there's gonna be a skull or two. I haven't figured out which ones I'm gonna put on there. I'm gonna put the smaller version of this or the bigger somewhere around in here. Maybe right here would be a good place. That way I'm not hitting my head on it. So yeah, probably right here on each side, somewhere around there. So either the smaller one, this one kind of looks more realistic. This one looks a little bit more cartoony. I don't know. Maybe it does look more realistic. Who knows? But this one does pop more because the contrast is different. The white and the black have more contrast. But I kind of like the way this one looks better. The smaller one's got more detail, it seems like. It does seem like it's more realistic. But it's a smaller head. So it's a younger person, so maybe we'll go with the older one. Either way, I also plan on making a cell phone holder or something out of this birdhouse. So something to hold the cell phone when I'm working back here. I can set my cell phone here, and then I could have something kind of lighting, backlighting with the skull lit up. So this is going to have some kind of lighting coming out of it, and the skull's going to light up. But this was a birdhouse that I had to take down on the driveway. So right now what you're hearing is an analog circuit, and I originally years ago wanted to have like a teaching channel, you know, where I want to teach you all this kind of stuff, like a university type thing, but Fry University. And just to explain things on a basic level instead of keeping things complicated like some people do. And I like to explain things on a simple level and kind of bring the world of sound and visual and meters and art all together and converge, because I'm a producer, I'm an engineer, I'm an artist. You know, I like to sing. I like to design things. I like to have, so my mock-up is falling apart. So there's an amp meter here, so you can see when the flasher bulb is pushing current towards the capacitor. And this is a visual, and it plays a part of the circuit. This is actually a 4 ohm resistor as well. This is a 4 ohm subwoofer. It's an old, like 20-something-year-old JL audio sub. But that's how I'm getting the train to go into creep mode. So if I bypass the flasher, you see how the flasher is speeding up? As the train starts going up the hill, it has more current to go up the hill. The flasher bulb will heat up quicker because there's more load, and the flash will flash quicker. So there is no digital stuff in any of this. In my speed control, there's no digital electronics. This is all an analog circuit to make the train do creep mode. And just like if I want to bypass the creep mode, I'll just bypass the flasher, and I'll come down here and go straight to the light bulb, and the light bulb assembly will light up, and it's a constant resistor instead of the pulse, and the train will slowly start speeding up as the capacitor charges up. So as the capacitor charges, the train will speed up. And if I would kill the power to the circuit, the train would finally slow down because the capacitor discharges. So I'm going to have all these types of switches and displays, and see, we can go right back, transition from the light bulb to the speaker series with the flasher bulb, and you can hear this thing clicking. I don't know if, let me put it against the phone. I don't know if you can hear that. So anyway, I want to teach simple circuits like this and get, so people can understand how things work more. How does a light bulb work? How does a flasher bulb work? These are basically, it's a bimetallic metal in here. There's two different types of metal, and when it heats up, it changes its state, and it just moves back and forth. It's a metal that moves back and forth. There's a small wire that heats it up as well, so whenever it's in bypass mode. But it's pretty interesting. This is completely analog. There's no capacitors, nothing else in here. It's just basically a bimetallic resistor. The little small wire acts as a resistor to heat up in there, and then the rest of the circuit is bimetallic, and that's what causes the flash. And basically a motor. This is what a speaker is, a motor. So there's no difference between this speaker and a motor, electric motor in a car, except for this one is not going in circles. It's going on an up and down axis. And it still has the same principle. It has resistance, it has magnets, it has a coil, and all that stuff like a motor. So this is basically a motor or a microphone. You can turn a speaker into a microphone. If you hook it up to a microphone circuit, you can also get sound out of it. So see how the flashing is increasing? The speed will increase as it's going up the hill. Wish this was a bit brighter here. So you can see as it's going up the hill, the flasher bulb's going to have more of a load, and it's going to increase the speed. So last night I did some wiring. This is the overall circuit, kill switch here. This is bad lighting for this. There we go. I wish the phone app would just stay on one exposure. This is the amp meter. Up here I added USB ports for power. So we got power. We got 4 ports here with power. There's one. There's another set, and that's what lights the LEDs. I have them turned off right now. And the capacitor, I'm going to mount it somewhere. This is all going to have electronics on it. Like I'll have this flasher deal featured in here, and I might even take off the outside of the flasher so you can see how it works, and I plan on probably doing that just so people know how the inside of a flasher works. And then the forward and backward switch, I'll have it mounted as well. I haven't figured out where I'm going to put the speaker, the subwoofer, but it's going to be an attention getter. The point of this subwoofer is when you walk by this truck at a car show, and that thing's going to be out in the open somewhere where somebody's going to notice it. You walk by here and you just see this, and there's going to be slot cars and the train, and this thing's going to be popping up and down with skulls, whatever else I decide to do with it. It's going to grab somebody's attention, and then they're going to start maybe asking questions. Well, how does that work? Why do you have that? What's this for? And get them interested in something. And maybe they'll go home and start tinkering with electronics like I've been doing since I was a little kid. You know, as soon as my hands would work and start moving, I was tinkering with stuff. You know, when I was self-actualized and knew that I had the ability to do that, I was tinkering with things. And I've always been that way. And I love designing art and converging art into engineering and practicality and stuff like this to show how you can make your own circuits out of stuff you have around the house. So I made this complete creep circuit. I call it a creep, not because of Halloween, because it's creeping along. And it's hard to get that to work right. You know, it's easy to get a train to move fast or medium speed, but get them to move in slow is a little bit harder to do. And I'm doing it with the pulsing of the capacitor is the key. You could also use a series of light bulbs, but that's not consistent enough because the light bulbs, as the temperature increases on the light bulbs, the resistance changes, and the circuit's not as consistent. But yeah, this is going to be a cool cell phone holder. I can't wait to backlight this. I can't figure out if I'm going to use red or what color I'm going to or green backlight this with. But I haven't figured out where I'm going to put it yet, but it might be mobile. I might have it on a cable where I can move it around over here so I can hold my cell phone. But it's definitely going to be part of the one of the things that I feature in here. And then I'm going to have the spark plug tester in here. And if you don't know what the spark plug tester is, I'll show you that here in a second. This is how it's going to be. You're at a car show and you're kind of walking by all the trucks and cars. You're going to come over here and go, what is going on here? So the story behind this is I wanted to be able to test all the spark plugs in the 65 Chevy at the same time. So I took the points distributor out. So this is the actual distributor that's the age of the truck that it came with from the 65 Chevy. This truck, it's a points distributor. The coil and everything. I replaced it with an electronic ignition with a electronic speed control MSD. So that's why it runs so smooth, because it doesn't have points anymore. So here's my MSD timing control, and I can retard and advance the timing about 7 degrees either direction. And I run it right around there most of the time. Look at the wood. Look at this nice wood action. Tangenting. Anyway, so the distributor came out of this truck. It's a points distributor. And I designed it. This is version 2. Version 1, it would only test 3 at a time. Version 2 will test 6 at the same time. And then you can move this to over here to check the other 2 plugs if you're working on an 8-cylinder. So that's how that works. And this is just some kind of tubing, clear tubing. And this is a pair of Cat 5. So if you're familiar with Cat 5 cable or Cat 6, this is the pair. So it's blue, orange, green, brown, blue, orange, the way I did that. It's kind of, you know, I grew up doing networking Cat 5. Half my professional career was networking. So that I threw that in with the art project. And this came from racing RCs. This used to start an RC motor. I worked at HEB for a while as a stalker, GM stalker. So there's an HEB lid there. And this is just a regular DC breaker. And this is how you turn it on. So I got most of this stuff was either I had it or it meant something to me. So we're going to turn it on and we're going to see the amp draw. And you can also, here's the gapper for your spark plugs. And this was the one from my childhood when I used to work on engines, and I buffed out all the rust and cleaned it up. This thing is really old. So this one is when I was rebuilding my engine back when I was a teenager on my 1979 Ford modified truck. So there's a lot of history here. So let's flip it on and we're going to show you the amp meter how it draws. So this will be run amps. So now the spark is sparking. You can't see it, but I can see the spark on all these. And as you see, it's going to slow down. And the reason why it slows down is because these light bulbs I'm using as a resistor, because we can't have that much current going to this motor because it's only rated at like 7 volts. So I have these light bulbs I'm using as a current limiter. So this is only getting about 7.5 volts. But as the bulbs heat up, the resistance increases and the motor slows down. There's nothing going wrong here. So let's see how much current we're drawing. We're going to stop the train for a second. We're going to stop the train and we're going to let the amp meter zero out. And we're going to turn on our spark plug tester and see how much current it draws. So we're pulling about 5 amps. The amps will increase as the resistance goes up a little bit on the light bulbs and it starts chugging along. But basically we're hitting about 5 amps. And let's see what our startup amp is whenever the light bulbs cool. So we're going to let the light bulbs cool for a second because they're pretty warm. And let's do it one more time. So it pops up to about 6. So yeah, these are the kind of things that I love to do. You know, taking something that's practical, how to test spark plugs, and making it an art project. And it's also audible. You can hear it. So you can hear it and see it. It's practical. It's doing stuff. And it's a teaching tool. Because I made all this stuff with, I made it with stuff I had around the house. And if you remember the rant and ride, remember the day I did the live stream where I went on my bike and I found this piece of wood in the parking lot. Everybody was running over. It still has the tire marks and everything. It was just sitting there perfectly at the Dairy Queen drive-thru, and it just running over and running over. And it's got all these black marks. I even left a sticker on there. This is that piece of wood from the rant and ride that day. So even that's got some meaning to it. So this is the kind of stuff that it's going to be at the car show. We'll start the tension getter back up here. So let's start the train in creep mode. And see, the reason why it started off so fast is because that capacitor was charged because I didn't pull power on the circuit. And as the capacitor starts discharging, it starts having to pull current back through from the battery, the truck battery. And when it's pulling current from the truck battery, it heats up this little bimetallic filament here, or piece of metal, and it causes the flashing to happen. And because the circuit is seriesed through the speaker, we're seeing what's happening when it flashes, and the motor has to work because the current's going through the motor, and a speaker is basically a motor. So I plan on putting more speakers in this as well, so it's not going to just be one speaker. I'm going to look for more old subs, and I have some old subs right here that I'm going to put this into the setup somehow. It's an old Jensen or JVC or something, and I want to put this in there too somewhere, and it looks old. It's a Techniques, okay, Techniques. So we're going to have this in here somewhere, and it's got a crossover, so I'm going to do something really cool with that. And it's going to have to be facing where the speakers are facing up, so I can put skulls and stuff on there. And I want to see if we can get this thing to pop like we're getting that one. Maybe I'll test it out right now. All right, let's do this live. So I took this 3-way passive crossover out. So this is for the subwoofer and mids and tweets. These capacitors only let certain frequencies pass through. And this was connected. So your standard old stereo system all have these old school passive crossovers. These things come in handy for people like me. So that's cool. So we got that taken off. Here's what it looks like on the back. This is an 8 ohm speaker. So it's going to be a higher resistant load. I'm pretty sure that's a 4 ohm speaker, that subwoofer. So this one's probably going to make the pulsing take a little bit longer, but it's going to be interesting to find out. So I'm going to hook this up and we'll see what it does. All right, so I got it ready to hook up. And one thing I wanted to mention too, just like a regular motor, this is a motor. If you reverse the polarity, which way the current's going in, the motor's going to run a different direction. So right now, the speaker's popping up. See how it's popping up every time it pulses? So let's reverse that, and it should go down. It's going to pop down. See, it's popping down. Different sound, different direction. So I'm just basically reversing the speed of the motor. The speaker works the same way in that case. All right, so now I'll have these 2 wires hooked up to the back of this old speaker. So let's see if this thing even works. I don't even know if it works. And what kind of sound are we going to get out of it? All right, so that's popping down. That's the popping down sound. So the speaker's popping down. And we're going to reverse it. And we're going to make the speaker pop up to see if we can get a better sound. Yep. So we get a better sound because that's the correct polarity of the speaker. So if you're hooking up a speaker, this is the direction you want it to go as far as when you're doing your polarity test. You want your subwoofer to pop up. So this one actually makes a pretty decent sound. Now, let's take it a step further. Let's series the speakers and see if we can get them both going at the same time. So I'm going to have to grab one more wire for that. All right, now we have them both hooked up. Now the fact that they're in series is causing a more of a resistive effect in the circuit. So the circuit has more resistance and it's not charging the capacitor enough. I knew this was going to happen. So now is when you start needing to do series parallel. So if we want the train to start moving again, we'd have to put 2 more speakers in parallel and hook them in parallel instead of series. Now we can start pushing the train and you'll hear the speakers slow down the pulse because not as much current is being passed through the circuit because I'm helping it along. Now the train's going to be rolling down the hill in creep mode, so it's going to start working because it's rolling downhill, but as it starts coming up the track here, it's an incline, the speakers will start speeding up and then the train will start slowing down. So let's see what happens here in a second. As you can see, the fact that I'm seriesing through both speakers adds 8 more ohms to the circuit. It takes longer to charge the capacitor, even though the pulse rate stays about the same. And then the train is in ultra creep mode. So it's going pretty slow. Let's put 3 speakers in line. I have one more small speaker that I have access to that I originally started building the circuit with the other day. Now we have 3 speakers. We have a little mid-range speaker here, and we got a 10-inch JL Audio sub, and this looks like a 12-inch Techniques sub. And as far as the ohm load, this one is 4 ohms. So we got 4 ohms on the mid-range. I'm pretty sure this sub is 4 ohms, and this is 8. So it's definitely not enough current pass through to charge the capacitor to move the train. So let's take the train and see if it'll run downhill. Notice how the pulsing stops when I took the train off the track, because there's no load. So let's see if it'll go downhill with 3 speakers. The capacitor is doing its best to charge. Let's give it a little push. So in order to get 3 speakers to work, we'd have to put 3 more speakers in parallel to get back down to where we want to be on our own load. So we could have 6 speakers if we did series in parallel, and that's how it works. But yeah, the train's not moving. So let's bypass 2 subs, or let's bypass this little one here, and all we got to do is just put this clamp on this one, and the train should start moving again once the capacitor sees enough load. We might have to go give it a push. But this is the kind of stuff I love to do. Back when I used to build scale interface boards and wire wrap circuits and work with IC chips all day, it was fun, but not like this. Analog circuits, for me, are funner than digital. Because analog, you get to see and hear what's going on. And see, there's the train moving again. With digital, you really can't see anything. But this is a real analog circuit. And you get to see the pulsing of the amp meter right there every time it pulses. That's the current that it's being pushed through the circuit. So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing at the car show. It's going to be a teaching aid, an art thing, an audible thing. And I'm going to find more old speakers like this, and I'll have them in series in parallel. And remember, the solar panels aren't going to be here. They're going up top. And I was supposed to get them up there today, but I just had too much stuff going on. So once the panels get up there, I got room for more speakers to go inside the layout of the track. So I can have the speakers in the track and doing this. So that'll be cool. And yeah, it'll probably be annoying, but it's going to be loud enough at a car show to where these things won't be sticking out like they are right now. That's all you're hearing. Something else I always wanted to do was invent a pulsing compressor like this to make us see what kind of air I could compress if I optimize this system here. How much power would it take to get 5 psi? Could you get 1 psi? You know, could you get anything? You could compress air, but by how much? By a speaker. And I always wanted to build a levitating vehicle. Years ago, I had an idea in my head to build a hovercraft and take subwoofers and put the subwoofers on inside of a chamber, and then put those subwoofers on a check valve system to where the air is only blowing out. So every time that subwoofer vibrates, it would be kind of like a diode. When the air hit that direction, the check valve let the air go out, and it didn't let it go back in. So it'd be check valves and subwoofers on the bottom of this hovercraft, and you would set it up on like a tone generator, and when you would change the frequency of the subwoofers, it would change the speed of the height of the hovercraft, the height that it would be off the ground. And of course, frequency and power would play hand in hand in the algorithm. But yeah, years ago, I'm talking close to 30 years ago, I had that, maybe longer than that. I was in my teens. I came up with the idea of the speaker hovercraft, and I kind of want to do it for the channel to make it on a miniature level form, you know, not something that you could ride on, but something that would hover off the ground. So maybe that'll be a fun project when I get all these other ones complete. But I think we're going to call it a day. This was kind of show and tell mock-up of what the truck's going to look like, kind of, sort of. Again, this is not going to go down the road like this. This will just be for the car show. I'll hang stuff there. And there we go. That's kind of what it's going to look like right there. With, imagine skulls and, you know, the kind of the skull theme. And yeah, that's it. That's what it's going to look like for the most part. So I'm going to go in there and read the comments later. And I read the comments from the previous video that I uploaded every day. So if you want your comments read on the video, make sure you leave a comment on this video and it'll be read on the next video. Please like, share, subscribe. The channel is actually starting to have a lot more growth now that I'm doing dailies. I'm not seeing that bleed of subscribers dropping like I was seeing. People are interested in what's going on now, so that motivates me a little bit, so that kind of helps. Love you all. We'll do this again tomorrow. Please hit that like button and share it on your social media if you can. Alright, this is the point in the video where I read the comments from the previous video. So the previous video is when I was about me putting wood on the truck. And today I didn't get much done on it. It was a big cooking food day. Went to get groceries and all that fun stuff. I did some mocking up and stuff like that, just to kind of step away from the project for a day. That helps me sometimes to refocus on the design stuff, just to make sure I'm going down the right direction on the project. So tomorrow I should have time to get back on it and finish up the structure of it and get everything braced. And my goal is to be able to go down the road this weekend at least by Friday, to feel comfortable cruising down the road and not worrying about anything flopping around or falling off, you know what I'm saying? Because I still have to secure the bottom part of the layout as well. So where the track is sitting, all that stuff is just sitting in there. I need to tie it all down and secure it as well. So I'm going to focus on the top first. So let's get to the comments where I butcher up people's chat names and rip and read like a good dyslexic. Alright, so Zach Kohler says Ecotech 2.0 LTG twin scroll turbo engine. WTF. Yeah. I guess that's just a funny comment. Alright, so Steve S. Pressure treated wood in car? Question mark. That's some old fence wood, and some of that stuff is just wood I had around the property. So I'm assuming that the fence wood is pressure treated. So Big Dice 5 hours ago said, years ago I used to work at a hardwood mill and was able to pull pieces of wood off the line I wanted to keep. I still have a lot I have never used, but you could never go to the store and buy. So there's a lot of stuff you couldn't buy. Bird eye maple. See, I don't know these wood types, but yeah, it sounds really like some exotic wood. Cool. And then KCA TV says gussets make the best braces. Yeah, I know, but I can't put gussets on this wood because it's so thin and kind of already aged. It doesn't have any strength hardly. So what I'm having to do is do cables across the way, because there's no place to put a gusset on anything. So I'm doing the cable stuff. It'll be sturdy, trust me. When I'm done with it, it's gonna work. But yeah, I can't put gussets on it just because of the nature of the way the structure is. The wood is just too old, and it's just kind of too rotted to put any mounting thing on the corners, because as soon as you push on that gusset, it would just pull the screw out, you know. So I'm going to use bolts and yeah, and the stuff that I got today, I forget what they're called. But all right, so tomorrow maybe I'll cruise down the road in it tomorrow if I get that far into the project. Please like, share, subscribe. Love you all. We'll do this again tomorrow. And I'm working off of like 3.5 hours of sleep. So today was a rough day for me. I got to bed at 5:30 this morning and got up at 8:30. So I don't know how many hours is that. Love you all.